This presentation will introduce you to the cybersecurity maturity model capability and why it is important for defense industry-based contractors. My name is Tom Bronak, and I will provide you with this awareness presentation. My picture is provided in the upper right-hand corner of this page, so you know what I look like. Should you be interested in learning more about CMMC, or in obtaining our services to help you achieve CMMC compliance, please contact me via the contact information listed in the upper left-hand corner of this screen and on every slide within the presentation. Now let's get started. The purpose of CMMC. CMMC was mandated by the Undersecretary of Defense for Acquisition and Sustainment for all defense industry base organization. Its purpose is to enhance the security of controlled unclassified information and federal unclassified information within the supply chain. CMMC was developed as a method for judging the cybersecurity level of defense contractor organizations. Failure to meet prerequisite CMMC maturity levels would negate a defense company's ability to maintain or obtain a government contract. This could affect over 300,000 companies currently providing services to the U.S. government. CMMC will review and combine various cybersecurity standards and best practices to map your control processes to one of 5 layers of cybersecurity maturity. For a given CMMC level, the associated controls and processes, when implemented, will reduce risk against a specific set of cyber threats. The CMMC effort builds upon existing regulations that are based on trust by adding a verification component with respect to the cybersecurity requirement. The goal is for CMMC to be cost-effective and affordable for small businesses to implement at the lower CMMC levels. Authorized and accredited CMMC third-party assessment organizations will conduct assessments and issue CMMC certificates to defense industry-based companies at the appropriate CMMC level that they have achieved. Why do you need CMMC? To obtain and/or continue performing contract work for the U.S. government. To be able to protect controlled unclassified information and federal unclassified information within the supply chain. The United States Department of Defense is implementing CMMC to normalize and standardize cybersecurity preparedness across the federal government's defense industry base organizations. Any defense contractor wanting to continue a government contract or obtain a defense contract must adhere to an appropriate CMMC level of certification. CMMC only applies to defense industry-based supply contractors that process, store, or transport government data. For your company to become CMMC certified, an independent third-party assessment organization must review and approve your level of CMMC compliance. CMMC is the U.S. government's solution to resolve low cybersecurity rates among some defense organization suppliers and vendors. It is meant to set an acceptable standard for vendors and suppliers to achieve prior to obtaining a government, or to maintain their existing government contracts. CMMC is outlined in NIST SP 800-171 and various DFARS documents. What we can do to help you achieve CMMC. We can assist you define your requirements for adhering to the CMMC level your company wants to be at. Our company can help you perform a self-assessment of your current risk position. We will perform a cybersecurity risk assessment to define your current CMMC level and what actions you need to take in order to achieve the CMMC level you desire. Identify automated tools and processes that can help you achieve CMMC certification and maintain your CMMC certification going forward. Report on the findings of our assessment and submit a statement of work to define next steps your company needs to achieve in becoming CMMC certified to your desired level. Obtain funding and management support to implement CMMC practices to the desired level. Develop awareness and training for stakeholders and participants. Obtain the CMMC level of certification you want to be at. Purpose behind CMMC development. The CMMC model is a standard that all defense industry companies must adhere to in order to obtain, or continue, government contracts. It has 3 major areas of concern, which are: protect data, including controlled unclassified information, federal controlled information, for all defense industry-based contractors that store, use, or transport government data. Safeguard acquisitions, through standards included in DFARS, NIST SP 800-171. Adherence to ISO 27002 and adherence to NIST SP 800-53. Protect federal information against malware, viruses, and theft, including federal systems, vendor systems, government data use and protection by contracts and vendors, and supply chain protection against illegal vendor products and services. The CMMC Framework. CMMC is divided into 5 categories, which are identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. These 5 categories are subdivided into 23 subcategories. Each function must complete the work associated with each category within the function to achieve certification. Some functions and categories are related, like identity management and access control with information protection processes and procedures. Guidelines have been established to assist your organization achieve the categories of protection contained within each function, and levels of protection within these functions goes from level 1 through level 5. An organizational structure should be established and personnel assigned to each of the categories within the functions included in the CMMC framework, because a lot of work is required to establish and maintain CMMC certification. Process and risk control self-assessment. The steps included within a self-assessment are: select participants in the self-assessment, both people and location where the assessment will be performed. Identify risks as defined in your risk assessment guidelines. Assess risk against business measure. Identify controls for a risk to limit or eliminate its impact. Define assess controls for who is authorized to create, read, update, and delete data or controls. Ensure that actions are in place to eliminate control lapses. Monitor activity to ensure proper operation and safety controls. Report results and obtain feedback. Take corrective actions in an evolutionary manner to eliminate weaknesses. Auditing your present CMMC profile will include the following steps. Define your audit universe by identifying the laws and regulations your company has to adhere to, both domestically and internationally. Assemble an audit team. Define an audit template for every type of audit you plan to perform. Develop and activate your audit schedule. Identify gaps, exceptions, and obstacles. Identify controls and implement them. Mitigate gaps, exceptions, and obstacles. Obtain insurance wherever possible to limit liabilities. Report to management on audit findings and see feedback. Update CMMC profile to illustrate improvements. Monitor and repeat process until all improvements have been made and you achieve the level of CMMC certification desired. NIST Cybersecurity Foundation. One of the disciplines that will be included in obtaining a CMMC certification is the Cybersecurity Framework, which includes the 5 categories of identify, consisting of asset management for both hardware and software, vulnerability management for releases and patches, and the areas of business organization, governance, risk assessment, business impact analysis, risk management strategy, and supply chain management. Protect, including identity management, awareness and training, data security, information protection processes and procedures, maintenance, and protective technology. Detect includes anomalies and events, security continuous monitoring and mitigations, and detection processes. Respond, including response planning, communications, analysis, mitigation, and improvements. Recover, including recovery planning, improvements, and communications. The Cybersecurity Foundation is heavily used throughout the industry and your organization may be employing it already. To achieve CMMC certification, it is recommended that you reevaluate your Cybersecurity Foundation practices and procedures once again, just to make sure they are operational and provide the level of protection desired. Compliance between CMMC and DFARS. This slide illustrates the many laws and regulations associated with complying to DFARS regulations. On the left is the area you want to comply with, while the right column shows the DFARS requirements associated with that specific area. When reviewing CMMC compliance, and determining which level of CMMC compliance you are at, a similar process is performed. The areas of concern are listed in the left column, while the pertaining laws and regulations will be listed on the right. A score can be generated from this exercise that can be shown on a heat map, which will make it easier to locate the areas that may have the largest impact. This will allow you to devote more effort to resolve areas that could have a great impact on operations and data protection. I generated links to the NIST and DFARS documents, along with specific areas within the document that had to be examined. This allowed me to gain a better understanding of the topics and made it easier for me to follow the review process. You may want to do the same when auditing areas that you may not be 100% knowledgeable on. Supply chain management physical environment. Of course, your supply chain must adhere to CMMC regulations for all phases of product creation and delivery. The top chart illustrates that supply chains crisscross the entire world, and move via various forms of transportation. From airplanes to slow boats, raw materials and manufactured goods go through the cycles shown in the lower chart, which are raw materials, supplier, manufacturer, distribution, customer, and finally the consumer. An interruption in the supply chain can occur in any of its links. A break can result in your company not being able to provide your customers with the products and service they demand. A supply chain interruption can therefore have a grave impact on your business, your brand, and your company reputation. CMMC standards require you understand your supply chain and take all necessary precautions to continue business in an uninterrupted manner. Remember, your company is just a link in the chain, and the chain only needs one link to fail. Don't let your company be that link. Supply chain verification and certification. Supply chain certification does not end at the vendor but includes who the vendor receives their supplies from and any other vendor locations they may have. That could impact your needs should the primary or secondary site suffer a catastrophic disaster. This is evident in the SolarWinds Orion catastrophe, along with vendor using products and other vendors who may be on a list of banned vendors. Consider using artificial intelligence, machine learning and robotic process automation products to assist in this effort, or automated tools. Supply chain interruptions can occur due to geographical catastrophes, natural, and man-made influences as well. Because of that, it is important that you implement strong access management controls like identity access management, role-based access controls, attribute-based access controls, and best of all zero trust authorization. Ensuring your supply chain adheres to regulatory requirements is a tough job and you need the assistance of your suppliers to make it work. It is suggested that your supplier contracts include clauses that assist you in defining all aspects of the supply chain, so that you can adhere to the CMMC standard level desired. Vendor onboarding due diligence. The steps that should be followed when bringing a new vendor on board are listed here. They are: vendor onboarding, create consistent and reliable process for vetting new vendors. Inherent risk scoring, determine due diligence levels and scope assessments. Vendor due diligence, establish efficient pre- and post-contract processes. Vendor contract management, manage agreements, contracts, and other legal documents. SLAs and vendor performance, track SLAs and perform periodic service reviews. Vendor issue management, identify and remediate issues across assessment process. Scheduling a demo, or a health check, learn how to incorporate best practices into your program. Supply chain management, determine who is sourcing your vendors, where they are from, do they have alternatives, and are all their sources in compliance with laws and regulations, multi-tier compliance. Vendor management steps. The suggested 6-step process used to manage vendors is displayed on this slide. It consists of onboarding third parties, including self-service portal for vendors to supply required information, systems integration of vendor information, and bulk data import of vendor information whenever possible. Leverage exchange of information through a global risk exchange that would provide notifications of worldwide events and conditions that may impact your vendors and the supply chain, pre-completed assessments from vendors, and product and service level agreements with your vendors. Assess and review of vendor agreements and worldwide conditions, including vendor chasing services to locate replacement and secondary vendors as needed, custom assessments and templates your company deems necessary, and pre-license industry standard templates. Mitigate risks uncovered in vendor agreement and other conditions that threaten the supply chain, like automated tools to flag potential risks, inherent versus residual risks associated with vendor supply chains, and global tracking and treatment plans should disaster events occur. Monitor and offboarding of vendors when scheduled reassessments uncover flaws and weaknesses, breach of enforcement tracker, and automated vendor offboarding procedures should a vendor be found in violation of their agreement. Dashboard reports could prove to be extremely helpful when managing vendors and can provide user-friendly review of vendor conditions, granular and suit-ready reporting on vendor status, and data lineage diagrams to validate information. Risk control self-assessment heat map. From the information gained through risk assessments and other related tasks previously performed, it will be possible to generate a heat map that would reveal where your greatest risks are. From this information, it will be possible to concentrate your efforts on the areas where the most improvement is needed. This will result in a more safeguarded environment in the shortest time possible. Probability is rated in the left column and severity is on the top column. Whenever a frequent probability meets a catastrophic severity, the box will be colored red. Less severe conditions will be colored brown or orange, marginal severities are yellow, and negligible conditions are colored green. The use of a heat map will make it easier to locate high-impact conditions where the severity and probability are both high. These conditions should be addressed. Risk control self-assessment process. The risk control self-assessment methodology is reviewed in this slide and consists of documenting processes and activities associated with performing risk assessments and training all participants, so that you obtain the best information possible. Collecting and reviewing the risk assessment information obtained and controls implemented, add outstanding risk to the risk register and creating plans of action and milestones to correct risks. Follow-up schedules and tasks that should be performed based on the results of the heat map. Constantly make improvements in the risk process through the information obtained during this phase. The risk control self-assessment should be performed on a periodic basis to continuously uncover weaknesses and exposures, so that corrective actions can be performed. What is included in a CMMC, a management direction? CMMC provides a pathway for organizations to achieve a heightened level of security protection through a cybersecurity maturity model capability. This level of protection is desired, but not presently required. It is projected that CMMC certification will be required soon. By following the CMMC model, it will be possible to achieve an optimized, safe, secure, and compliant environment. Having a CMMC certified organization will provide a corporation with the highest level of certification desired by people, government, and business organizations going forward. The 5 steps included in the CMMC process are: establish policy and answer the question of why do we need to do this. Establish control objectives and define what are the best practices for us to follow. Establish standards and determine what is our requirements. Establish procedures and determine how do we actually do it, and develop guidelines so that practitioners can have a roadmap to follow when performing related tasks. CMMC Maturity Process Progression. There are 5 levels contained within the CMMC model. They are illustrated in this slide. The levels are: Level 1, no processes are documented. This is the beginning step for all organizations. Level 2, processes are documented. Each process is documented, including Level 1 practices. You cannot go to the next level unless all processes within a level are completed successfully. A policy exists that includes all activities. Level 3, managed services are implemented and documented. Policies are defined and documented and a maintenance plan is in place. Level 4, reviewed. Each practice is documented, including lower levels. A policy exists that covers all activities. A plan exists that includes all activities. And activities are reviewed and measured for effectiveness. Level 5, optimizing. All preceding steps have been completed successfully. All activities are periodically reviewed and improvements made after a post-review is conducted. There is a standardized documentation approach across all applicable organizational units. Developing a security maturity process. The 5-step process for obtaining Level 5 CMMC certification is shown in a different manner in this slide. It includes people, processes, and technology that would be employed in each of the 5 CMMC maturity levels. The 5 CMMC levels are shown on the bottom of the chart and include initial, developing, defined, managed, and optimized. The functions performed by people are illustrated in green, the process employed are illustrated in blue, and any technologies that are recommended are shown in red. The pathway to CMMC certification. The tools and guidelines used to achieve CMMC certification are shown in this slide. You will start out with written information security program directions, but should end up with a digital security program that automates your security protection. For in-house, on-premise, cloud vendor, and supply chain management. Some of the organizations and guidelines that are included in the CMMC process include ISACA and COB IT5. NIST Framework Special Publications, specifically 800-171 and 800-53. Enterprise Network and Information Security Agency Guidelines and Procedures. Center for Internet Security and the CSC Top 20. FedRAMP. And finally, Secure Control and Framework. All of these guidelines will be required to adhere to DFARS requirements and will be included in your journey to achieving CMMC Level 5 certification. I hope the information in this presentation was helpful. Remember, if you need help with your efforts to achieve CMMC certification, please contact us. Thank you for your attendance.